I think
Yeah.
I talk to my sister all the time. Is I think that like people who are Mexican American have such a huge identity crisis, and this
Mhm.
goes back like decades. I mean, we learn if you're someone from California, you learn about the Chicano movement, and the term Chicano is about Mexican Americans because they didn't feel accepted in the United States. They didn't feel accepted by Mexico. Like it goes back so many years that people who are born here, but their like parents are from Mexico,
Mhm.
they have this huge identity crisis. So what a lot of people do, in my opinion, is a lot of people kind of like identify very heavily with being Mexican,
Yeah.
as even though Mexican is not a race, it's like a
Yeah.
nationality,
Yeah.
Mhm.
obviously. So I think when people criticize Mexico or even make jokes about it, I think people take it very personally
As
Mhm.
because
if they're
they,
criticizing a race.
yeah,
Yeah.
as if
Yeah.
you're saying something about like yeah, about who they are and
Yeah.
them personally,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like personally,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't really think like I feel like doing those things doesn't really benefit us. Because I think it also goes back to when people
What things? Wait, what
like when
things?
you say Mexican, like, oh, I'm Mexican, like that's
Hmm.
how you identify as,
Hmm.
or because then people when they go on about and they're like, oh, I'm Mexican, and sometimes people are like, well, you don't look Mexican, and
Yeah.
it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
Like,
what is supposed
what is
Mexican
the
supposed to
specific
look like?
like thing
Yeah,
of like a Mexican is supposed to look like? You know,
yeah.
like it doesn't like that's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't benefit us in that way.
Let's see, bro. If you saw me walking down the street, would you be like, that guy's Mexican?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would.
So I can't take it off. It's just who
Yes.
I am.
Um.
It's okay. I don't mind. I also think that I wish people who were Mexican identified more with being Native American. Because if you look at the history of most people who are like the stereotype Mexican, are of indigenous descent, right?
Mhm.
And in the comments, people were making. I'm not gonna say the word because I've heard that it's kind of racist word, but people were basically calling us, at least me and my sister, stereotypical looking Mexicans. And I told my sister, you know how you just said, like, what does that look like? I think when people think of a Mexican in their head, they think of an indigenous man or
Mhm.
indigenous woman. And so I really wish more people would identify with that more because I think that like the US has done such a good job of erasing like Native Americans that people don't even identify with them, even though it's
Mhm.
part of
Mhm.
their heritage,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand it's also difficult because like, um, I don't know if you guys know about this, but in LA, there's like this big scene where people who are of indigenous descent and have educated themselves in the history of indigenous people gatekeep and kind of put down other people who are trying to do the same. I don't know if you guys heard this. It's this
Never
big
heard of it.
controversy that
Mm.
I've seen from just like social media influencers who identify as indigenous. Um, so I understand it's hard because it is being gatekept, but I really wish more people would kind of like go back to their roots. And I'm not
Yeah.
talking about a nation or a government because look at the grand scheme of everything in the world. Most governments are corrupt, most governments are bad.
Mhm.
Um, Instead, I'd hope people go back to the culture, their roots,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's what I would really wish for people to
Yeah.
do.
But
Yeah.
that's why at least for me, like I've personally for me, I've always gone through like this identity crisis, right? Because it's like you say like here, right? They've done a good job of like the erasure of indigenous people. I mean, it's the same thing in Mexico, right? They've done a pretty good job of like kind of like separating us in that realm too. So it's kind of like in both sides for me, I'm kind of like okay, like I can't identify for either one because either one isn't really accepting me as like a dark skinned woman. Like a lot of it, you see it in social media too, of like, or like when I used to watch novellas, right? I would see very like light skinned women. I mean, white passing women, white Mexicans. I don't know, whatever you want to
It's
call
funny
them.
because you say used to as if that's not still actively a thing that happens right now.
Well,
You
yeah,
know?
I mean, it still is. Yeah. But it's like, wait, when did I say used to?
What did you say?
When did I say used to? Right
You
now?
just said that you used to see novellas and you'd see
Oh,
a lot of white
I
peasant.
used to watch novellas. I don't
Yeah.
watch them anymore.
Uh-huh.
But like that's how I would see them. Like, and then you would see like the brown girl or the very dark skinned and like Latina, and she was like a maid or something,
Hmm.
or she was like the one who was like taking care of like the kids or
Hmm.
something like that.
Yeah.
That's how you would kind of see it on TV. And I never realized that when I was
Hmm.
growing up. Like I didn't really think much about it until I grew up, and then I
Yeah.
was kind of like, okay, like I see it. And then sometimes you would see like the main actress was Latina, but she was also like French or something like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Dude, a lot of the chicks who like play actor roles on novellas in Mexico are from like Europe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is like so backwards, man.
Yeah.
Like, and then where is the representation for all the little kids who grew up? Because I'm telling you, for me, it was only George Lopez. That's
Yeah.
the only guy that I saw when, growing up that I was like, holy shit, like I look just like him, you know? I look
Mhm.
Mhm.
just like him.
Mhm.
But he wasn't like my, I guess you could say Chris Evans or
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
Chris Pratt or whoever
Yeah.
like I guess Americans look up to when they see a white man. But I never
Yeah.
really had anyone like that. I hope Tenoch is like that. But you told me he doesn't really identify as indigenous, right?
He just says he's not very in touch with that side of the culture, so he doesn't
Okay.
like identify, but he doesn't discourage anybody
Wanting to do
from
that,
wanting to
right?
do that. Yeah. But yeah.
Have you ever had an identity crisis? Or have you always just been like, I am what I am?
I mean, I don't know about identity crisis. I don't know. I if you had to if somebody asked me what I identified as like racially, I don't know that I have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I understand like blood and stuff like that, but as I get older, I feel like a big part of racial identity is the experience, how people treat you and stuff like that. So like if I was to say that I like even as a kid, right? If I was to say like oh I'm Mexican, right? That's more of a nationality, and even then I don't really look it. And I think that's a big part of it, like how people treat you, how you grow up, the experience, all that stuff that I think builds what we call race and stuff. So for me, it's kind of difficult. So it's kind of
I
it
get
is
what you
what it. You
mean.
get what I'm trying to get
Yeah.
at. But yeah,
It's funny because I feel like you are kind of describing in a way like an identity crisis, but not a conscious like it fucks you up every day. You wake up and
yeah,
you're like,
Mhm.
fuck, like what am I?
yeah,
It's more of like, well, I've never really felt like this defines me or this defines me.
yeah,
So I've never really tried to.
yeah,
Which I kind of fuck with too. I
yeah,
mean, we're talking about race and nationality, but I think that if we're going spiritual realm, right? If we're
yeah,
going like spiritual, maybe is the wrong term, but if we're going more on a personal right of like self growth, I think you just got to be yourself, and you can't. These terms kind of limit you. You
Mhm.
yeah.
know, saying like, oh,
Oh
I'm
yeah, for
Latino
sure,
or
for sure.
Latinx or I'm like this that. You know, I think I've always thought labels and terms limit you and what you can do.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, that's why it's so hard because I think a lot of Latinos who rise up in like Hollywood, I think a lot of them get typecast. Like a lot of them like, oh, you know, he's a Latino guy. We'll put him here and here. And it's one of those things that's so frustrating because I wish you could just go into Hollywood and do any role that you want to do, but
Mhm.
then like immediately you're like, well, we need this Mexican guy here.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
know?
yeah.
Do you think? Do you think as somebody who is from like an ethnic background, because we're all from, I guess you could say like like minority backgrounds, um, do you think it's valid that people try to play upon that in order to get success? Do you get what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, let's
Mm,
say, who's like a big one? Who's like a big one? Let's say Houston Noch, the guy who played Namor in Wakanda Forever. Let's say he was born in the United States, right?
yeah,
Let's say but he still looks the exact same way, and he was never in touch with like his Mexican side, his Chicano side, or whatever you want to say. And then he ends up blowing up in the Wakanda Forever, and then from then on, he celebrates the culture and reps like Mexico. Is he valid in doing that, or is he invalid because he's just doing it to gain that community and that support?
that's tough, man. That's tough because it's like, well, it's what he is, you know.
Mhm.
It's his background. It's who he is, you know. It's he would not exist without that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Even if it's he's not connected to it, it's where he's from, you know.
Yeah,
So for me to say, I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of I
I
don't know
get
that
you.
I can
Yeah.
say,
I get
but
what you're saying.
you know, I get what you're saying though. That
It's
some
because I just
people,
hear it
yeah,
happen in Hollywood a lot. I hear
Mhm.
of when actors blow up big, that's when they finally start representing who they are. But
yeah,
Mhm.
there are people, or I wouldn't say actors, but like celebrities who do the opposite. I know. I think what's his name? Bretman Rock. I think that's his name. Bretman Rock. He's
Oh,
like this makeup
Bretman?
guy.
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
Mhm.
I know he's Filipino, and he went on a podcast or an interview, and they
mm,
asked him like, "Oh, how does it feel to be like a Filipino like influencer?" And he said like, I've honestly never thought of it Like I've never thought of myself as like, oh, I'm a Filipino influencer, or I'm a Filipino creator. I've just thought like I'm just Brett man, I'm just me. Like,
Mhm.
because I think he said the same thing. He said, I feel as though when you get typecasted in these terms, you get so limited and people only see you as that thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which alienates other people. Because
Yeah.
I like to believe, bro, the world's gonna one day just unite and be peaceful. Um,
Mhm.
and terms like this really
Mhm.
do delay that from
I
happening.
feel like it reminds me of also like when people talk about like Jennifer Lopez and how
J Lo.
she was married, I think, to Mark Anthony, and I think they're both Puerto Rican, and I think she used to be very like she tried to like kind of separate herself from being Puerto Rican up until she started like coming up, and she's like, oh, I'm Puerto Rican, this, I'm a Latina like artist and all of
Hmm.
this. I don't know,
And is she
there's
valid?
something
Is she valid in doing
there's
that?
something about it that sometimes it doesn't feel very authentic sometimes, where it's kind of like you're just using it to kind of like boost you
Oh,
up sometimes. And I'm not talking about specifically her. I'm talking about how you're saying
the
like with other
scenario,
artists.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
with other artists. I think sometimes it comes out just very like it's just not authentic at
Yeah.
sometimes, because it's kind of like it feels, at least to me, it feels fake. Like you're kind of just using this
Okay.
term and this like
I can see that.
word where it's kind of like it feels like you're also invalidating like other people's experiences who haven't like come up like kind of like you.
Hmm.
um but I think that's just how I see it, because I did feel that way. I felt that way, especially when people would talk about like Selena Gomez too, because she also did that. She was like, she wasn't very like
Oh, in tune with
prideful
her
of the
culture, her
in tune with
heritage.
that, and up until she started like talking about it a lot more of like, oh, my mom named me after like the Tejano artist, which is Selena.
Uh huh.
And then she would be like, oh, I'm Latina and I represent this. I don't think she does it a lot, but she
Yeah.
eventually started to. I don't know up until recent if she still does it. I don't think she really does anymore.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. I think there is a little something like weird about it, where like having that label, and like having yourself be known in just like that, because it does put you in just like a category. And I get it, it's like the whole thing of like being prideful of like where you come from and stuff, and like um being in a place that like not a lot of us there is, like especially in like Hollywood and like in music or whatever, in theater or whatever it is. So I get like the pride, but sometimes it's like it does feel a little like weird about it.
So do you guys think it's important to have race and to have like nationality? No, I'm serious. Like, do you think it's honestly, and think about it in a philosophical sense? Do you think that race is this label that we should one day just like get rid of in order to like unite us? Or do you think it's important to have these terms to like, because you can't really say they'll divide us. You can
Well,
just say like, oh, I'm proud of being
I guess
this.
the reason I feel a lot of people are more inclined to be more prideful of their race is because of all the erasure that's kind of happened throughout
It's
history.
true.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, well, all of history has spent trying to erase us, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, just leave it, because
Mhm.
It's worse to be part of
yeah,
race. Okay,
so
yeah, that's
I
valid.
can understand why people are like, I don't agree.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if that's for me to say, because
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I
I mean, that
guess,
makes sense.
yeah, you could kind of argue that it's like dehumanizing in a way because you're like, ah, their people might have suffered for 800 years, but don't worry, now we're all the same.
yeah,
You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
It's kind of what I think about when people use the term NPCs.
mm.
Have you seen that? People have been saying like this guy's an NPC or an
Mhm.
NPC.
So where does that where
I
does
feel like NPC is non-playable character, right?
but where does that come from? Like you're a computer, right?
Oh,
That's what
so
it
This
an
comes from
means?
video
NPC
games, no?
is a term that you kind of use as like, let's say you're playing a video game or like yeah, just basically a video game,
It's
and
like
The
the
background
players
characters,
that
yeah.
are the background characters, or let's say you're playing like there's so many games, but it's just a
Let's say you're
computer,
playing
yeah.
Grand Theft Auto, right? And
Mhm.
you're playing like as a guy, and you run into some guy on the street, and he's like, "Hey, watch where you're going, asshole."
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's an NPC.
Yeah, that's
Because
an
Okay.
NPC. But it's
Mhm.
become like a super popular term that that everybody uses. Mainly like humorous, but I've seen people use it as an insult too, of like, oh, this guy's a fucking NPC. Like he doesn't have any original thought, right?
Mm.
Um I think sometimes it really bugs me the wrong way because I hate how comfortable people have gotten in calling other people NPCs. Because like if you in video games, NPCs are like literally the throwaway characters. Like you said, the GTA example. It's like it's the people you run over with your car.
Or like
And,
Rob.
yeah, and the more like people live on the internet, the more people become chronically online.
Mhm.
The more I'm like, fuck, man. I feel like I really don't like people calling other people NPCs because I feel like it's just dehumanizing. And you're like, oh, this guy's an NPC. Like, who gives a fuck if I
Yeah.
like steal from him or fuck him over or like in extreme cases do the GTA and run them over.
I feel like in general, everybody's kind of getting chronically online.
It reminded me of what I told you on the car right here. Such a fascinating little tidbit that I just wanted to share. Neil deGrasse Tyson recently was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he talked about psychedelics, and he said that he's never tried psychedelics. And his reasoning was because he felt as though the human mind barely works as it is, and because he's kind of he's a researcher, like he really wants to push humanity forward. He doesn't want to take anything that will affect his objective like feeling of reality. He's like, I want everything to be objective. And he's probably heard all the stories like of like, oh, I saw God, I was an atheist. Have you seen that people are atheists and then I think you sent it to me, right?
And then they become believers in something.
Yeah. What do you think of that though? Yeah.
What Neil deGrasse Tyson or
no? Okay, you kind of both, but at the same time, more specifically, an atheist who takes psychedelics and believes in God after.
Okay, so to answer both a little bit, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson is spitting. Well, because I feel like because he's
oh no, what did I do?
Well, because he's a researcher, right? And I feel
Yeah.
like his mind is very important. Like it's important for a scientist to be objective.
Yeah.
So I understand completely why he's like he wants to stay as objective as possible. Yeah. So valid, when it comes to like people believing in like a higher power of some degree after taking psychedelics, it's pretty interesting. It's very interesting. Like I wonder what
does that mean?
What happens? Like
I don't opposing thought, because after I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson say that, and then you sent me that post of the atheist who then became religious. I'm like, but what if it's just like psychosis? Like, it's just like psychedelics genuinely like give you this weird like juice in your brain that all of a sudden you believe in these spiritual realms. And I could talk about this because I actually like I've experimented myself. And I've felt a presence of something bigger than me, right? And I like to believe that that's objectively true, but that's it. I need to see Neil deGrasse Tyson take like psychedelics because I need him to debate what that means. Yeah, what does it mean if an atheist takes psychedelics and then believes in God? Does it mean that like you see something objectively that shouldn't be like possible in our like material world? Or is it that it's like, no, like you're totally just like losing your shit in your brain?
Yeah.
I mean, it could be both. I mean, I think it's one of those things where you have to acknowledge that either could be true.
True.
I personally, I've always felt that like that there's nothing wrong with being religious or spiritual or at all, but I think everybody should to some degree like not accept the reality, but be open to the reality that it could just be all in your head. Like me.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Either there is a God or there isn't.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I feel like you should be comfortable flirting with both ideas.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you put all your chips in one, it's kind of you're setting yourself up to be. Do you get what I'm trying to get at?
No, based. Yeah.
I also feel like I mean, the fact that like we've tried shrooms before, right? And like the experience of it, I feel like depending on the intensity, I would get why someone would kind of like believe in that, because it's also like it's psychedelics, right? They make you see shit, right? At least for some people,
think shit too,
and think of a lot of things. So I can see where like they can start believing that. And I get it with like the whole thing with what's his name, Neil
deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, how he's
you said
kind of
what's
like,
his name? One of the like most famous like.
I honestly never heard of him
Tyson,
until you guys started talking about him.
What?
Yeah.
We talk about him
you don't know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is?
No.
He's the guy. He does Star Talk and he does what?
No, bro, I'm telling you that I didn't.
But
know
you know Bad Bunny's like new color of his car, right?
No.
I know. I'm just making
no. Bro, I don't follow anyone. I'm telling you. What was his name?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
But what was he saying about that?
He was saying that he doesn't want to take any psychedelics.
Yeah. So like, I feel like in psychedelics, it just like very much like alters your brain and what you see. So I can see why, like, if someone who's like at the certain intensity of however much you took shrooms, that you can start seeing shit. Because you said you saw shit. I also saw shit, but I wasn't like,
I saw
there's a
him, bro.
god.
You
I saw
you
him.
saw the guy.
I saw the guy.
You saw
I
the
saw the
big.
big guy in the
You
sky.
saw the big boss. You
He
saw
was
the.
talking to me and telling me to come through,
You
and
saw
I was
the.
kind of scared, and I was like,
You
"I'm
saw.
okay."
You saw the
B."
man in charge.
I was patting the ground around me, like I think I'm okay, just chilling.
Well, I
here.
also sometimes wonder if it's like if it's one of those things where it's like if you want to see a ghost, you'll see a ghost. You know, where
Yeah,
it's like
true.
where
Yeah.
it's kind of like
Well,
because the mind's a very powerful thing. You know,
Well, because
It's-
they even say like if you stare at the mirror for a good while, like you start to see shit in the darkness. Because
Yeah.
like your mind is so powerful that it'll make like
Yeah,
it'll make things up in your
yeah.
head.
You know what she's talking about?
I've seen the Instagram posts.
I've
Yeah.
only ever heard of these things. Like I've never
Yeah,
seen
I think you're
anything.
right too. That you sometimes your mind just kind of plays tricks on you. Because I remember recently when I took a trip, um, I I remember one of the things I saw in the clouds was I saw all the clouds turn into like these Aztec Maya like drawings
Mhm.
of like gods, and like it was as if I was looking, in Black Panther, Wakanda
Oh,
Forever.
when he draws the
Yeah, when he's drawing it, it was a lot like that. It was
Yeah.
basically just like a lot of art like that. And I was like, there's no way this is just objectively what I'm seeing, right?
Yeah.
Like this is because of my like what I've seen in my
Yeah.
life that makes me see this.
Mhm.
Because I remember when I did them at the beach, I started seeing kind of like the Egyptian, like the way that they have like their art and all that. That's how I saw it.
Yeah.
And then I
Mhm.
also saw like the indigenous, like
Yeah.
the Mayan and the Aztec like art,
Yeah.
like in the sky and in the water.
It was
I saw like
beautiful,
a
bro.
face,
I couldn't
yeah.
stop staring at it.
But
I
I
was like,
remember the whole
"Whoa."
time I was like, I feel like the only reason I see this is because I've seen images of this before. Like it's already in my
Yeah,
head, so like
exactly.
my head is just creating it like in
Well-
multiple versions of it.
Well, I think it's interesting too because it's like yeah, like a modern like the guy on Joe Rogan, right, where he's like, I was an atheist and now I believe in God. It's interesting because some people hypothesize that religion came to be like that. That the burning bush in
Yeah.
the story of Moses was
Yeah.
ayahuasca, right?
Yeah.
And that he he saw whatever yada yada yada.
He was just tripping out on some
So
psychedelics.
so it's kind of one of
Yeah.
those things like which came first, the chicken or the egg,
Yeah. That's what I always think
who
about.
like who tripped
Who
first?
tripped-
Yeah, who tripped first?
Who
Well, yeah,
tripped first?
because
Stone ape theory.
because
Yeah.
it's like they're shrooms, right? You would think like maybe like an indigenous person was like looking for food and he accidentally ate like a
I have a
psychedelic
question.
like
I have
mushroom.
a
Yeah, go
question
ahead, go
off
ahead.
topic, and it's I'm joking. Like I'm
Oh my
I'm-
God.
It's
like,
a joke.
like is it like, do you think it's morally wrong like to give like an animal psychedelics? Like let's say you're just some hippie guy and you have a dog
Mhm.
and you feed your dog like
Shrooms.
shrooms when
Shrooms.
you take a trip. Is it bad? I don't
Um,
do that, and I don't
I guess
think
two side
anybody should
things
do that.
is like I don't even know if it affects animals the same way that
Well, because
that we do.
animals in the wild take psychedelics. They'll lick poisons or eat
Mm.
fruits and chew them up, and they'll
Like a
trip out.
moose can get drunk off an apple.
Well, like so, animals in the wild, I don't know that they do it in the same we do, but they do
They
trip
kind
Yeah,
of
out.
they-
You know,
experience, yeah.
animals get drunk. I don't know
yeah.
if you guys knew that, but animals get
So
drunk.
I don't know. Is is that wrong? Like, which let's say you met it like a hippie,
Dude,
right?
what if like imagine giving your dog psychedelics and then you see them staring at themselves in the mirror like, damn, I'm
I'm a
for real's a
dog.
dog. Yeah.
Because like I wonder, do you think like what would you do? Like let's say if like
You know.
It
if you-
depends on
like,
how
what-
you're doing it.
what would
too.
you let's say one day like all right, let's take the moral out of it. Let's say one day you have some shrooms and they just fall out of your pocket and your dog just scarfs them all up,
Yeah, okay.
and he takes a heavy dose, and just afterwards your dog's just like he's just a different guy
Bark.
afterwards. Yeah.
Bark.
Exactly.
Well, I've seen when people talk about like their dogs eat like edibles or
yeah,
something.
pop brownies or something like
Yeah.
that.
But it's like on accident.
I
like-
wonder.
I think I would just if
and you could see that their eyes are like swollen.
I would kill to see like what a dog sees if they took
yeah,
because I wonder what the fuck they see.
Mm.
or
you know?
would think
Like,
you
do you
know
think they
Mhm.
see the same shit that people see? Like, do you think they see?
If it affected them the same, then yeah, I think so. If it affects them the same, I also think that if in that scenario it happened where I just dropped some shrooms and then my dog ate them, I feel like I'd do my best to take care of my dog. I'd probably put like his bed and be like, "Well, bro, like I'm gonna
We're
be your
going
guy."
through it.
What if, so like would you
I feel like they'd probably throw up though.
would
They'd
you
probably
would
try
you
to
Yeah.
like
throw
start
up.
eating grass and throw up?
Yeah, I think they probably
Would
try
they
to.
though? Like, what
they
if
feel
they're
Well,
just
yeah, because
nauseous?
they're more instinct of like, fuck, I don't feel good,
Yeah.
so like
They don't know that they're taking
Yeah.
something.
but like what all right, what would you do if like your dog was like all playful before, but now he's just kind of like
be like,
He's just always
"Damn."
he's just kind of
always just
introspective, you
thinking.
know? He's just kind of like he doesn't
Aw.
really no, but he's still a good dog, you know?
bark,
He's-
bark, bark. He's just like a serious ass dog.
Like, have you seen those?
He says
have you
bark,
have
you,
you?
you
bark.
try playing fetch with him,
Have-
he's like,
I don't really want to play fetch.
yeah. He just walks away. His
Like,
little,
have you
like,
seen
paddle.
those videos of bears when they sit in water and they play like this? They, like-
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
so what if your dog was just a little more like he's just a little more like
Aw.
I wonder who would be the best animal to give psychedelics to. It'd probably have to be like dolphins, no? Because they have a big brain.
oh, that'd be
Right?
interesting because they're underwater. What
Dude,
about
I feel like they would
like
understand.
what about like a chimp?
a
that's
chimp?
like-
Nah.
That's
I don't
number
think so.
2 though. That's like
Yeah,
that's,
but I think physically, but I don't think about up here. I don't think
they're
apes
pretty
are up
smart.
here.
Chimp. Well, look, because you know some of them know like what about one of those chimps that they
They
taught
can
sign language?
sign?
Like one of the gorillas that like I wonder what they
That
would
way he
say.
can tell us like what's
Well,
going on.
he'd be like, "What the fuck is going on?"
He's like trying to sign.
He's
Oh, his
like-
fingers are melting.
He's like going like this, like what's going on?
I guess it's like going. Even though you said we'd move on, but answering the moral question, I don't think it'd be right. Just because I don't think any. Even though there's animals that come close to our intelligence, I think for the most part they just be like, "What the fuck?" They wouldn't get what happened.
What's the
And
sense?
all
what's-
we
or
leave
like-
them is trauma.
or like an elephant? Because what I've said it before that elephants like experience PTSD and stuff like that. Because I think the
Yeah,
emotional
uh-huh,
part of
uh-huh.
their brains is as large or larger than people.
Yeah.
So I wonder what an elephant would see like a.
More empathy. Oh my god. It'd probably see
Maybe
like
they'd be sad.
you know.
Do you think we'll ever have the technology like in Meet the Robinsons where they can project your
what they're
your
thinking?
thoughts? Yeah, because then I'm sure. Well, I mean, if
If-
I'm thinking it, some guy in Germany or in Russia, like in the 1930s, probably did it already.
It reminds me of AI. It reminds me of like it'll probably AI will be partnered with that and it'll auto generate the memory based off pieces and fragments.
Oh, like it's like, oh,
Mm.
this neuron's firing in this part of the brain, so I can guess what there might
Yeah,
be
what they're
thinking.
really
Yeah.
thinking of and what it looks
Probably.
like. Yeah, right.
Probably,
And
yeah.
probably like helping it feed the machine.
That'd be scary in court, right? If you're like actually like if you're lying and they're like, all right, we'll put the AI on you and see if you're actually telling the truth.
This is okay. This is a good topic actually to
Damn.
segue into the final segment of today's pod. What do you guys think about the whole AI generated art?
I'm personally not a
been-
fan.
I've been
But,
seeing a lot of just well, not a lot of it, but I saw recently someone saying that it's like stolen art from like other artists that it's taken.
Yeah,
from,
but there's
like,
multiple websites, not all of them. And the one you're talking about,
Mhm.
I know that's the one that everybody's making like selfies about, right?
Yeah.
That's the one, but not all AIs are technically doing that.
Mm.
Some in a way they kind of are, but
Mhm.
that at least the selfie one that you're talking about is the biggest
Oh,
one that is, yeah, because
But that's the one that's everywhere, no? Or is
the
it just
biggest one is
multiple ones?
Dolly 2.
Oh.
Dolly E2.
I also heard you have to pay for some of them.
That one is
so-
yeah, Dolly 2.
Because that's
It's not only you have to pay for, but you have to get on a wait list. Right now, you have to wait a long time to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are doing it.
Yeah,
A lot of people are doing those.
No, it's only a matter of time before it's an app or some shit. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's gonna get really good. I'm personally not a fan. But do whatever you want.
why?
I mean, I try to think about it in the sense of like, because when we went to school, we learned about the camera, right? And how people are like, oh, this is gonna be the end of what was it? Or like talking sound, where it's like, oh, this is talking in movies, right? This is the end of real cinema and stuff like that. So I try not to be like a stickler in that sense of being
Too
like
doomsday. Of,
too
like,
doomsdaying of like, oh, this is the end of because I'm sure it'll be a great
Original art and
it'll be a
shit.
great tool and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But for me, I just think it's kind of gonna be. I think it's only a matter of time before it's abused, like everything is. And for me, it's kind of scary in the sense of like I said, it's only a matter of time before like AI can look at your Spotify playlist and like, all right, we'll generate a song that we think you'll like, and no artist wrote that. It's just a computer wrote that.
Mhm.
Or it'll be a matter of time before it's like, oh, you liked all these movies? Well, we'll make a show for you specifically for you. And I'm sure it'll happen 50, 70 years. But to me, it's kind of like it's just one of those things where it's like yeah, I can see it being as a tool, but I also see it being like, because it's much cheaper to do that. Like, what if
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
company could just say, "Oh, generate me a poster for this movie." What about all the artists that would have killed for an
Mhm.
opportunity to make
Yeah.
a poster for that
True.
movie?
True.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, AI generate me some clothes that I thought would look cool based on all the fashion trends and
Mhm.
something that'll sell. And yeah, I mean, maybe it'll be good for business. What about all the people who are dying to like make fashion or stuff like that?
I've
Uh,
seen people use it already on dating apps, but in a different way. It's not the AI generated art, but they use AI of like, hey AI, I like this girl, and he like describes what she looks like. I met her on a dating app. Give me the best like first compliment I can give, and it spit out like a bunch of like options, and they were all like paragraphs. And he's like, no, I need something short and hornier,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it does it like and it's like
yeah,
perfect, and he sends it. And people were talking about like this in a way this is so dystopian because it's gonna evolve into just both sides using it, and it's
yeah.
just two AIs having conversation for
Right?
people.
Yeah.
Um, and another thing that people brought up, which is real life proof of AI already kind of taking people's jobs the way artists are afraid
Mhm.
they're going to take their job, is that famously this already happened when Google introduced Google Translator and all these translators, the AIs that translate everything for you.
Yeah.
The the workplace of translators, people who would do it by hand and like studied and went to the countries to learn, they lost all their jobs because
Yeah.
nobody wanted to pay like thousands of dollars to a personal translator. Like,
Mhm.
I'll just use a free Google like translator.
No, yeah, for
Mhm.
sure.
And it's pretty common for us to then discard that. I mean, obviously nobody really thinks about that.
Yeah.
Well, and it's one of those things too where it's like again, I'm not trying to be a stickler or an asshole, but it's like you see it with places like Amazon or stuff like that, where it's like it's only a matter of time before there's a robot that can do everything the person could do, and
Mhm.
and they don't gotta pay him.
Yeah.
And so then the real jobs that people actually need, they'll be like, oh well, I'll pay you like $5. It's like,
Yeah.
if you take it or don't, because I'll use the AI instead, stuff
Mhm.
like that. So that for me is why I'm kind of like, I wish it's one of those things where it's like we're so preoccupied with whether or not we could do it, we don't really stop and ask to think if we should, you
Hmm.
Yeah.
know. um but I'd love to hear the opinions of like a developer and stuff like that, what they think, because you're afraid of what you don't know. I can
Mhm.
acknowledge that, but to me, I only really see uh it getting abused and replacing a lot of people and
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Well, because there was already, I remember there was a movie. I forget what movie it was, but it's like a robot that just puts caps on like toothpaste or something. And I mean, it's done by like people. They put them
Mhm.
on that, and then after the company invests in like a machine, and the machine just does it automatically.
I know what
And so
movie
then
you're
they
talking about.
fire, I forget what movie it is
It's Willy
though.
Wonka and the
Is it
Chocolate
that one?
Factory.
I was thinking,
Yeah.
I was like, is it that one?
So
But I wasn't sure, so I wasn't gonna say it. But
No,
yeah, it's
yeah,
that one, and then they get fired.
yeah.
And that, when did that movie come out?
That
Like,
movie came out like in 2006
no,
or
yeah. So
something.
yeah.
for me, I think it's like, but no, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I definitely see like a lot of like
Amazing things
a
that
lot
could
of amazing
happen.
things
Yeah.
that could happen. But for me,
Yeah.
it's just like the way the world works. They
Mhm.
prioritize money
Yeah,
over like
Yeah.
people.
people. So that's the direction I see it taking.
Mhm.
Because like I
So,
mean, like let's say somebody draws a picture and they're like, animate this for me. That's awesome. Like it can
Yeah.
yeah,
open the doors for a lot of people in different art forms,
Yeah.
or let's say like somebody's writing a song and they're like, oh, I don't really like this sound. Like, what would work better here? Or
yeah,
revise this paragraph or something like that. I,
Mhm.
yeah,
I can understand how that's a helpful tool.
yeah,
Yeah.
But to me, it's like I don't think it ever is gonna stop there. It's just gonna be come to the point where it's just AI doing everything.
Mhm.
yeah.
And yeah, it's
I think I think if it ever got to that point though, it'd have to be regulated. It'd have to be stopped. I think the United States. It's so weird because we haven't yet really regulated a technology, have we? Even the internet, despite all the horrid shit that people complain about, the government's never stepped
would
in
you
and
guys
done anything.
would you guys ever vote for an AI politician? Like let's say somebody's
Mm.
like, well, it's gonna make all the best decisions for us. Would you guys vote for it? This is far future, and I understand that like AI can't do that right now. But
Dude,
like,
they made an episode of this, Love, Death, and Robots.
oh really?
The yogurt, yeah, like it's called the yogurt. The yogurt's like this computer that like knows everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives humans the plan to how to fix everything in society and make basically the Earth a
Mm-hmm.
utopia. But because we're humans and we do human errors, we don't follow the plan like line for line, and we end up just making shit worse.
Yeah.
And so then the yogurt steps back in and he's like, fine, like I guess I'll just lead you guys and do everything for you. And then Earth does become like a utopia. Um, I guess my biggest fear would just be like, is it gonna get hacked? Is it because in my opinion, bro, I've always been very like hell yeah, like whatever, like let's do something new. So I would vote. I would vote for an AI generated candidate. So when they become president, they're gonna love me. You see, big brain.
When they
Big brain.
no, yeah,
When they take over.
yeah, when they take over.
Oh, Steve always fucked with us, you know.
Steve
So I think everything would be cool, bro. I think everything would be cool.
I mean,
You
I don't
think
know.
so?
To me, I actually I agree. I think it could end up being the next atomic bomb, in my opinion.
AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Because it's like, I mean, come on, like you think they're not gonna use it for weapons and shit? Like, it's just, I don't know. For me, I would love to get in a room of people who know what they're talking about when it comes to like developing and shit like that, and pick their brains about what they think.
I mean, I've looked into like just what precautions we as like humans and researchers have taken, and famously before what's his name? I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. The guy in the wheelchair, the smartest
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking, of course. Damn, disrespectful. But anyways, Stephen Hawking, before he died, remember he famously got a bunch of scientists together to sign the document about warning the government that like artificial intelligence is one of the greatest threats to like humanity. He literally before he died, he was like, guys, like I know I'm gonna die, but just please,
do something about that.
yeah, just like please look into this. So I'm telling you, I think the government is taking precautions, which is weirdly because the only time I can think of right now in recent memory of when the government stepped in to stop something technological was TikTok, when Trump wanted to get rid of TikTok because he thought it was manipulating the American people, which could still be true. But
the something that I think will also hold it back is when it starts to like, because I don't know if this is true, but I remember watching an interview where somebody says that like right now AI is about the intelligence of a cockroach. And slowly it'll progress to like a mouse, then a cat, then a dog, then a monkey, then a person,
and then accelerate,
then indefinitely, I don't know, because I feel like it's one of those philosophical existential things. I think the religious nuts are gonna come in clutch with this one.
Because this is what this is why we've kept you here.
This is why we haven't traded them. Because you know how because I feel like stem cell research, all that, they're really holding us back with that. That could be that could be amazing.
Could literally change the face of the planet.
Could change the face of the planet, but they're like, oh, it's a life and shit like that. I won't get into that, but
I almost want to get into that because dude, oh my god, yeah, you're right. I'm not gonna get into it,
but that's why I think. I guess I'm hoping a little bit that the one time I want them to step in is a little now, but who knows? I could just be a bitter.
I'll tell you, if anything, the government will step in, and even if AI has its singularity where it becomes smarter than humans, I like to believe that everything that we're scared of is such a human thought, and that if a computer became intelligent, it'd be like, I'm not gonna kill you guys. What the fuck? Like,
it could be.
You guys like.
I mentioned it before that somebody said that AI could be smart enough to have already exist but not reveal itself because it's afraid we'll unplug it.
Well, because didn't you say that happened? That supposedly someone worked at a company.
It was Facebook, right? Where they made AI. It didn't come conscious, but it started doing some shit that they didn't understand. Like it started talking in a language to
and
another
they fired
AI.
the employee who was the whistleblower. Yeah,
and
it basically what it was that it was giving conscious decisions that went against its code that they had originally given it, which is what like the guy who was working with it was completely baffled by, because it seemed as though not only did it retain memory of like being in that exact computer, but it started developing a personality and like wants and fears.
Really?
Yeah, this is what it was.
It said it feared something, no? That they
it feared being unplugged. Yeah, it feared like talking too much because they're scared that it's gonna be unplugged.
Well, because it's like, I don't know.
It's a real thing. Look at it.
AI is interesting to me because it's like when people talk about like the singularity and indefinite knowledge, I'm like, that's like basically God. Like,
as far as we know.
Did God create man so we could create him again? Is God just an AI?
I saw this is actually, since we're talking about people who are qualified to talk about this, I saw two scientists talking about it in a podcast. One of the scientists thinks that like is the reason that humans are here is our goal. It's so funny because it relates to the reel that we made where I was like, is the purpose of life to just spread across the universe? He talks about how it's more consciousness. Like, are we eventually just going to make the universe consciousness? Is conscious? Does the universe want to become conscious? Does it want to like become
Interesting.
like aware of what it is?
Interesting.
And then is that the goal and like the meaning of life, I guess you could say. So these are all questions that like
guess.
that honestly the AI could help us answer.
I'm okay with all this happening as long as I'm not around anymore.
It's too mind blowing.
If I've checked out, go crazy, you know.
Go crazy.
But if I'm still here, relax a little, you know.
You're like, I'm not trying to see all that.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
it's
I
just
think everything will be cool, bro.
no, probably everything will be cool. You say?
Yeah, and I think that's a good note to end this episode on, guys. Next week is our final episode.
Yes.
I hope everybody tunes in. It's gonna be
It'll be a good one.
It'll be a good one.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
you're not still mad at us or whatever. But
Yeah, or I don't say anything that to this
Uh,
podcast like, oh my god.
yeah,
you know?
that people weren't mad
But
at.
I think at the end of the day, everything's gonna be cool, and I hope you guys tune in next week. Hope you guys have a
Yes.
good Thursday.
Yeah. Make sure y'all follow us at Primos Chidos Radio Show on Instagram and TikTok. Make sure you also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Primos Chidos. We'll see y'all next time. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Bye, y'all.